Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video, kind of a chatty one today. I wanted to take some time to talk about season 2 of Ahsoka. It feels like there's been a lot of discussion over will it or won't it happen, and to me, the answer has not only been obvious, but is even more obvious now. So let's discuss that. Hopefully I can allay some fears for the Ahsoka fans worried about not getting a season 2, and let's be clear, I'm an Ahsoka fan. I really enjoyed the show. I thought that quite obviously the last episode was a little bit rushed, but the experience overall was great, and I definitely want a season 2, and it seems clear to me that we're getting one. Even before the show aired, this was meant to be the beginnings of a larger narrative event. The show is left on a complete cliffhanger. We've got Ahsoka, the titular character, in another galaxy. We get nothing really resolved by the end of season 1, but we get much more in the way of mystery, including Balin, who's off to do, well, God's know what. And this is clearly the setup for the next stage of the Mandoverse. We've got Thrawn back in the galaxy. Skeleton Crew is probably going to be affected by what happens here. I've got my whole theory on that. We know that it involves a school bus of children basically traveling and getting lost in space. My guess is that they may somehow be knocked out of hyperspace by the Eye of Sion. Maybe they're even like swept along in the hyperspace wake to Peridia. Either way, Thrawn is back. That needs to be dealt with. His story needs to continue, and I don't think they're going to wait the 5+ years needed to finish that story in a movie. Now, I do think Thrawn's ultimate defeat, let's be honest, he's a bad guy in Star Wars, we know which way this is headed, will happen in a movie, but we need more setup, and that's where Ahsoka Season 2 comes in. I also found it really interesting how Dave Filoni talked about Season 1 of Ahsoka in a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly. He describes it as an exploration of her past. He says, who is she meant to be now that her whole world has collapsed? It's not just that the Jedi Order fell apart, but her mentor, the one person she looked up to, became one of the most evil people in the galaxy. It's devastating, and I never showed her deal with that. I wanted a character we could watch have that transformation where she fully accepts not just who she was, but what her past was, what the good things were about the mentor she had. It changes who she is and who she can be in the future. I don't think you put that work in if that future doesn't exist. And not just in that sense, but generally, Ahsoka feels like almost the prologue to a greater story. Even look at the language that the Star Wars official accounts have been using. No spoilers, just vibes. Watch the season finale of Ahsoka, then read our official highlights. They called it the Ahsoka season finale. But to me, even larger and more important than that when looking at the future is the elevation now of Dave Filoni, who has moved to the role of Chief Creative Officer. I think if they didn't believe in Dave Filoni's vision, he would not have got that promotion. And with that promotion, he now also has the ability to, on a macro scale, more delicately guide the future of the Star Wars universe. When I talked about that article in Entertainment Weekly, he mentions that sometimes he feels lucky just to get projects that he wants finished. As an executive, now he'll have more sway, and I believe that he will be watching and shaping the Mandoverse as it progresses into its next stage. And to me, what we've got so far really feels like stage 1 of the Mandoverse, and things really now have the opportunity to expand. I also do feel like there could be a benefit to that, to getting Dave Filoni really managing the overall direction, but maybe having other writers take more of a direct role when it comes to an episode-to-episode basis. I've also not been a huge fan generally of Dave Filoni's directing, although there have been some episodes I really like. So I do think as like a visionary and as a big ideas guy, he's the one that I want in that position. Dave Filoni also gave a really interesting interview to Vanity Fair, and keep in mind this was after his elevation to Chief Creative Officer. And I mean, it really feels like Dave and the cast are going as far as they can to say another season's coming without, actually saying it. They want the marketing team to really take that. Rosario Dawson said specifically, I mean, they've not said anything officially, but I remember when we were at Star Wars Celebration in London and they were like, we're giving Dave a movie. And I was like, I kind of feel like that means we're probably going to get a second season. For a while now, and especially now with the strike and everything, no one can say anything, but he did say he was working on an outline, so we'll see. In the same article, Dave Filoni says, I'm setting up what seems to be a larger conflict with the Imperial Remnant. That conflict can't just mirror what we've seen before, has to take on a different shape. It can't just be the Empire versus what looks like the Rebellion or even the Republic. Republic. It has to be visually different. I find that interesting because it kind of confirms what I've been mentioning. It's sort of the first step on a bigger plan, but also that Balin's story, however it ends and however it moves forward after the unfortunate passing of Ray Stevenson, will perhaps play a role on the bad guys the galaxy faces off against. For now, that's probably where I'll leave it, but just rest assured, if you're an Ahsoka fan, the story will be continuing. People have downplayed the success of the show. Part of the difficulty with these streaming services is we just don't know. That was one of the issues also behind the writer's strike when it came to residuals and whatnot, but we don't know how well the show is doing, but by all indications, pretty well. When it was on, it was #1 on new streaming shows, and I think if they can get that consistently, they'll probably be happy. There's going to need to be content between movies. Like, Disney does not seem happy to let their franchises sit and get stale for better or for worse. So whether it's in Ahsoka Season 2, which I obviously believe is coming, or some other show, we're getting more of the character. The story will be continued, but let me know your thoughts on all this and more down below.